Welcome back to the deep dive. Last time we left Dante and Virgil in the sixth pouch, eighth circle, watching those hypocrites, remember?
Yep.
With the gilded cloaks, beautiful outside, but crushing lead inside.
Right. That image of the hidden weight beneath the shiny surface, it really sticks with you. It felt like a setup for exploring, well, deeper kinds of deception.
It really did. And that kind of sets the stage perfectly for today's deep dive into the 24th canto of the Inferno. And our goal here isn't just, following the map of hell. We want to explore what lessons this canto, written so long ago, might actually offer us for our own lives, our own journeys.
Finding the practical wisdom within the poetry.
Precisely. We'll be looking at parts of the canto itself and referencing where we left off. So, picking up from the end of the last canto, Dante and Virgil have a pretty tough climb ahead of them, right?
Oh, yeah. It's a physically demanding ascent from the sixth bolgia up to the seventh. Dante really emphasizes how wiped out he is.
He does. You feel his exhaustion. But then Virgil steps in with some, well, pretty strong encouragement.
That line is so potent, not by caressing pale faces, but through labor one climbs to fame. It just cuts right through.
It really does. It's basically saying, fame, achievement, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't come from taking it easy. It comes from hard work, from pushing through.
And it connects to what we talked about earlier, doesn't it? Intentions are great, but action, real effort, that's what makes the difference. It's pure perseverance.
And it's not the first time Virgil's done this. Remember back in Canto 2, when Dante was full of doubt?
Exactly. Virgil was there then too, bolstering him, reminding him why he started the journey. He's that essential guide that push you sometimes need.
Like an inner voice or maybe a mentor figure, someone saying, keep going.
That persistence is key.
Okay, so they make it. They finally arrive in the seventh bolgia. And the scene, well, it's pretty horrific. We meet the thieves.
Yes, and their punishment is uniquely awful. It involves serpents, lots of them.
But it's more than just snake bites, isn't it? It's this bizarre, gruesome transformation.
Utterly bizarre. They get bitten and then instantly just combust, turn to ash.
Just like that. Poof.
Poof. But then, almost immediately, they reform from that same pile of ashes, whole again.
Only to have it happen all over again.
Exactly. An endless, agonizing cycle. Destruction, reformation, destruction. It's relentless.
Wow. That constant cycle, it really gets under your skin. And this whole theme of transformation, of metamorphosis, it's central to this canto. Dante even calls out Ovid.
He does. He specifically mentions Ovid's metamorphoses, which is fascinating because, we saw Ovid back in Limbo, Canto 4. Dante clearly respects him immensely.
Right, one of the great classical poets.
But here, Dante basically says, my descriptions of transformation, they're even better than Ovid's.
That takes some confidence.
It really shows Dante's awareness of his own poetic power, his ambition for the comedian.
So beyond the literary one-upmanship, what's the deeper meaning here? This constant, violent change for the thieves?
Well, think about theft. It's inherently unstable, isn't it? Taking something that isn't yours, often through deceit, involves a kind of violation, a disruption of the natural order, maybe even a change in the thief's own identity or moral standing.
Ah, so the physical transformation mirrors that internal moral instability.
That seems to be the idea. A life built on theft lacks a solid core. It's always shifting, dissolving, reforming, just like their punishment. It reflects the inherent insecurity and lack of stable identity that comes from that kind of life.
That makes a lot of sense. And speaking of specific thieves, we meet a prominent one here, Vanni Fucci.
Vanni Fucci of Pistoia.
Yes.
And his crime was particularly bad in Dante's eyes.
Why specifically?
Because he didn't just steal property, he committed sacrilege. He stole sacred objects from the cathedral in Pistoia.
So it's theft compounded by violating something holy, a double transgression.
Precisely, a betrayal of both human and divine trust. And when Dante sees him, Fucci is consumed by shame.
But it's a strange kind of shame, isn't it? The text suggests he's more upset about being seen by Dante in this miserable state.
Exactly, than about the actual sin he committed.
Yeah.
It's about his reputation, his public image, even here in hell. Not genuine remorse.
Which is quite telling about his character.
Definitely. And then, out of that shame and anger, he lashes out. He gives Dante this bitter prophecy about political defeat for Florence's white guelphs.
A bit of spiteful revenge trying to hurt Dante with bad news.
Seems like it. And then comes that final act.
Oh, right. The gesture.
That utterly obscene, defiant gesture aimed directly at God. Making figs, as the notes often say. He underscores the idea of souls completely hardened in their sin, actively rejecting any possibility of grace. It's a terrifying endpoint.
Okay, let's try to pull some threads together for the listener. What are the big takeaways, the lessons from this canto for, navigating our lives?
Well, we already hit on perseverance pretty hard with Virgil's quote. That idea that good intentions aren't enough. You need the follow-through, the effort.
Right. Good intentions are not enough if not followed by actions. It sounds simple, but it's fundamental for achieving anything, really.
Absolutely. Then there's the consequence of stealing trust. The thieves losing their very form, constantly dissolving. It's a powerful symbol for how theft and dishonesty erode the connections between people.
It fractures society, doesn't it? Breaks down that essential trust we need.
Exactly. It undermines everything, as Vanni Fucci's specific crime, the sacrilege.
The double transgression.
Yeah, it highlights how violating those core values, whether they're religious or societal, is seen as particularly damaging. It's about respecting fundamental boundaries.
And what about Fucci's shame? Being worried about reputation over the actual wrongdoing.
It really makes you think about the difference between, say, genuine remorse and just being afraid of getting caught or looking bad. True dignity, maybe even in suffering, comes from facing the truth of your actions, not just the consequences.
That's a subtle but important distinction. And finally, that destruction-rebirth cycle. You mentioned it symbolizing an unstable identity built on deceit.
Mm-hmm. In a world today where identity can feel so fluid, it's a striking medieval image of how dishonesty prevents a solid, authentic self. You're constantly having to remake yourself because the foundation isn't real.
A timeless warning about the importance of integrity.
Definitely.
Now, before we wrap up, there's one more piece. That simile at the very start of the canto. The peasant and the frost.
Yes. That's a wonderful touch. Dante starts with this very relatable, down-to-earth image. A farmer sees frost, thinks it's snow, despairs for his flock or crops.
Panic sets in.
Right. But then the sun comes out, the frost melts quickly, and his hope is immediately restored. He can take his flock out.
And the contrast with the horror that follows in the bolgia is just immense.
It is. It's like a moment of human everyday reality dropped into hell. Similar to other similes Dante uses, like the waves in Canto 7, it grounds the infernal in something familiar.
And the lesson there. Even when things look bleak, like that frost seeming like devastating snow.
Change can happen unexpectedly. Relief can come. Hope can be restored, sometimes quite suddenly. It's a reminder not to lose heart completely, even in dark times.
A little sliver of hope, even at the entrance to the thieves' pit.
You could see it that way, yes.
Okay, so summing up Canto 24. We've seen the absolute necessity of perseverance, the destructive nature of breaking trust, especially through theft and deceit, the difference between real remorse and just caring about appearances, and, well, even in hell, hints of transformation and the potential for change. How do you stay true when everything feels like it's shifting? Well, that brings us to the end of this, our 24th deep dive into Dante's Inferno. Thanks so much for joining us again as we work our way through this incredible poem.
It's always a pleasure.
Until next time, keep thinking deeply.